Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. It is such a great pleasure and honor for me to introduce our moderator, Associate Dean Liao Guanzhi, College of Education, National Tsinghua University. And I would also like to welcome our speaker, Professor Lim. We are honored to have Professor Lim to give today's keynote speech. He is the Associate Professor at NTU Singapore. Professor Lim was a former Deputy Director, Technologies for Learning in Singapore's Ministry of Education. He will deliver a presentation entitled The Significance of Artificial Intelligence and E-Learning for Curriculum Guidelines in Singapore. And let's begin the journey of learning and discovery together. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Liao and Professor Lim.
各位好，各位嘉宾，欢迎各位参加国际课纲研讨会。我是本场次的主持人廖冠志，来自于国立清华大学，很荣幸跟各位一起来参与今天的专家讨论。我们今天十分荣幸可以欢迎邀请到新加坡技术教育学院的英语文学系的林飞博士。今天的演讲里面提到有关人工智慧快速发展之下，对于调整课程的设计以及教学模式如何去因应 AI 时代的来临，有非常好的变革。林博士在教育领域是顶尖的研究学者，他专长在多模态的教育的应用，以及多模态的读写素养、多模态的论述分析以及数位学习。他关注在当今的数位化跟多模态时代，学校应该教些什么，以及课程如何改变，同时有非常大的一个影响。林博士坚信语文素养教育对于现代 AI 时代来讲是与时俱进的，同时也关注在整个学生如何去因应未来时代的关键能力。林博士的研究跟教学成果斐然，主持大型的多项研究计划，同时在顶尖期刊发表论文，同时也是 Multimodality Study 的期刊的编辑，以及在2023年同时获选美国斯坦福大学语文跟教育类的Top 2% 的顶尖科学家，同时也是致力于有关教学实践，开授多门大学部跟研究所的课程，指导以博士生从事多项的多模态研究。林博士曾经担任新加坡教育部的要职，多项参与制定新加坡资讯通讯科技教育的总体规划，以及对新加坡的课程发展师资培育有深远的影响。当然，同时他也担任世界银行的数位科技顾问，成果斐然。我们都知道说 ChatGPT 的 AI 问世对教育工作的反思定义有非常大的作用。面对 AI 的浪潮，我们如何了解到课纲的变化？我们可以透过新加坡来针对长期的教育科技的发展蓝图，转换教师的角色，面对 AI 的教学发展素养导向，有非常好的经验，同样可以作为身处课程变革的我们台湾一个很好的参考。根据 UNESCO 在2021年有一份报告指出，人工智慧对于教育产生的影响包含了教学管理、知识学习评量以及赋能的教学部分。在制定 AI 的教育政策的时候，必须要确保公平使用的 AI 方法，来确保我们的 AI 的方式对于整个人类整体来讲是有很好的发展。当然 OECD 在去年2023有一份重要报告指出，人工智慧对于教育的有效公平使用，也提到了人工智慧要确保获得相同的网络的基础建设，以及道德的使用，还有教师的自主权。以上全部都是针对在教师的赋能上面提供非常重要的一个建议，也是今天本课纲研讨会一个非常重要的重点。当然 AI 除了对于教学的教育内容、教育的方法还有教育的实践，也同刚刚等一下林飞博士会提到的 Multimodality in Education 的部分，它有非常丰富的一个讲述。无论在今天演讲之后，各位可以从中获得到对于 AI 对于教育的新的体验，当然对于课纲的研发有更深刻的影响。好，我们一起掌声欢迎林飞博士带来这个演讲，谢谢。 Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Liao Yuanzang, for the very kind introduction. And thank you very much, Yuanzang, her colleagues, for the kind invitation to come to Taipei to share some of the work that we have been doing in Singapore with you. I also appreciate the fact that the audience, you are here after lunch. I know it's hard to listen to a speech after lunch, so I give you permission to sleep, but try not to snore. Is that okay? Right. Okay, good. Now, first of all, I would like to say that I was very impressed in my visit to the school yesterday, Chongling Junior High School, Guozhong. Very impressed by the leadership, the culture, the teachers. I told the colleagues that I was with that the curriculum that we have is not so much just in the design and development, but really in the implementation. So based on the implementation of the curriculum, you can see how it reflects on the thoughtful design and development that have taken place. So I would say that I was very impressed by what I have seen yesterday. And I know that the teachers that were there also spoke very highly of the digital platforms in Taiwan, the digital resources, as well as the support that they have had from the Education Ministry, as well as from the National Academy of Educational Sciences. I would also want to say that I enjoyed the sharing this morning by Dr. Kim about the exciting work that they are doing in Korea. Now, one thing we know for sure is that nobody really have the answer. Right? Korea doesn't have the answer. Singapore certainly won't have the answer. Maybe Taiwan has the answer. But the fact is, AI, generative AI especially, is confronting us. I mean, it's at our doorstep. It's offering new possibilities and new challenges for teaching, for learning, and for assessment. And I think collectively, we are trying to find the answers in our own way as well. So I've seen how Taiwan has forged the way ahead, responding to the changes on digital technologies and Gen AI in the curriculum. We have heard from this morning Dr. Kim sharing about Korea's strategy. And today, this afternoon, I will share with you what Singapore is doing, building on what we have done previously in the 3 decades of ICT and Education Master Plan, and how we are responding to the new challenges in a sense, by also launching a new master plan, a new EdTech plan, 2030. I don't think it's the answer, but I think collectively we will have to find meaningful responses in our own context and society. Right. So this is the agenda I have. This is a fairly long list of agenda. I hope that I will get to the end. But if not, you have the slides, I think. Yeah. I do want to encourage you to make this afternoon yours. So what it means is that even as you listen to me, I encourage you to share, pen down your questions, your thoughts, your reflections. And I would love to hear it from you later on, to have a time of discussion, because this is not just a one-way communication. I love to hear your feedback. If we do not have time, I will leave my email address at the end of it all. And of course, we can continue the conversation. Is that okay? Yes? Yes? Can sleep but don't snore, okay? All right, good. So let's talk about the first thing. First thing first, the emergence of generative AI. December 2022, I was having a holiday with my family. We were in Switzerland, enjoying ourselves. And then the news broke towards the beginning of the month, December, saying that, well, generative AI, ChatGPT, is now openly available to the public. Now, I think many of you would know that AI is not new. I mean, in the 1980s, some of you who were in school during then would know that AI, there was a lot of excitement about the possibility of artificial intelligence, right? And then we have gone through a few decades where some scholars and researchers will say that maybe artificial intelligence then didn't quite live up to the promise and the hype, and of course the attention shift to other things like the metaverse, right? Virtual reality, augmented reality. But 2022 December was interesting because when ChatGPT was released, it was released openly
to the public, which means everybody, including my 15-year-old son, can download ChatGPT and start to use it to do his assignments. And that led to a lot of responses from educators, English teachers, from researchers, thinking about the implications it has, right? And on a train ride to one of the places in Switzerland, I was reflecting, what does this mean? What opportunities does Gen AI offer? But more importantly, how should educators, how should researchers respond to the possibilities and challenges of Gen AI for the way we teach, in terms of what we teach, and more importantly, how we assess. So this is an article that I wrote in the Singapore Straits Times that was published in December 2022. I know you have not read it because this is Singapore and it was a while back. So I asked ChatGPT to summarize it for you. I thought Yang Jiaoshou's summary just now was brilliant. I mean, that was a very effective, highly effective way of showing how ChatGPT can be used to summarize key ideas, even from a presentation that we have heard. So that was what I did. And of course, my area of expertise is in the area of multimodality and multiliteracy. So my argument was that in the digital age with generative AI, we have to think about the importance of multiliteracies. We have to think about new assessment methods. And just for fun, I thought I got ChatGPT to write a shorter summary because, after lunch, sometimes we don't want to read too many words. So this is the key idea, right? Essentially thinking about how we can use AI to encourage critical thinking and explore alternative forms of expression in assessment. Interestingly, the second point is no longer that relevant because in 2023, Midjourney came about. And of course, we know that now generative AI can be used not just to generate images, but also produce videos as well. So can't really just look at multimodal forms of expressions. I got it to write a poem just for fun, but the poem can be too long. I mean, it's a lyrical poem. So I say maybe write a sonnet instead. A sonnet, a Shakespearean sonnet. Maybe you say, there's too many words, right? How about a haiku? A Japanese haiku, in a sense, to summarize the article. And this is the potential, this is the capability of Gen AI that we are no longer surprised by because we have all been using it in our own ways now about 1.5 years later. So more recently this year, that as what Prof. Yang and Dr. Kim have mentioned, Sora allows us to create realistic and imaginative scenes. So just putting in prompts or just words, you can create images, but in this case, the potential of creating videos. So what does this mean for us as humans? What does it mean to be creative today? Does ChatGPT make us lazy? We don't have to listen to the talk anymore because later on Prof. Yang can generate a summary for us so you can fall asleep. And then at the end, we generate the summary. Is that good? Yes? No? Think about the role of technology in human history and how the Industrial Revolution was really very much made possible by the fact that technology was able to do some of the low-level manual tasks, right? And that, in a sense, revolutionized society, right? A lot of the factory line operators were being displaced. The manual jobs can now done by the machines. That is the manual jobs, the low-level physical jobs. Think about what ChatGPT can do. The low-level cognitive tasks are now being easily done by Gen AI. So what does it mean for knowledge society? What does it mean? What kind of revolution will be brought by? What kind of labor will be valued? Because now having a summary is no longer a very valuable asset, right? Because a machine can do it. So what kind of literacies do we need to have in the world today? I think this is an important question that we need to think about as educators, as researchers, as curriculum planners and policy makers. We cannot be teaching something that is valued in the curriculum yesterday for tomorrow's learners. So the question we have to think, and it's our responsibility really, is to think about how, with the possibilities and the challenges of generative AI, what does it mean to be literate in the world today? Now, this is not a new question. I mean, as educators, we have the burden that we have always been asking this question. So when social media became very popular amongst our young people, we begin to think about, okay, social media, young people are communicating very differently. And the tools, the affordances of social media allow them to express their ideas, their experiences, and their identities online, right? So with that, what does it mean to be literate? What does it mean to communicate meaningfully in today's days and in this digital age? So I think the same question will have to be asked in relation to generative AI. And it's important for us to recognize that the developments of generative AI is not just within the domain of computer scientists, but it's the responsibility of all of us as educators and researchers in our own domains to shape and also to steer the development of generative AI. I would like to draw attention a little bit more to Gen AI and to distinguish it from the AI that we are all familiar with. How many of you have used AI today? How many of you have used AI today? Yeah, certainly, isn't it? If you have used your face to unlock your phone, that is AI, right? If you have bought something on a shopping platform, you're already using AI. So AI is really, really not new. When did it all start? A long time ago, right? 1960s, right? The foundational chatbot technology was developed. It was called ELIZA, right? And it was a chatbot technology. Some of you are familiar with that because you have done computer science. And essentially, input sentences are analyzed on the basis of decomposition rules, which are triggered by keywords appearing in the input text. So the responses are generated by reassembly rules associated with selective decomposition rules. What's fascinating was that in the earlier experiment with ELIZA, this program, they decided to have the chatbot interact with a human to see whether a human can know that he's talking to another human, or whether he's talking to a machine. That's the Turing test, really. So ELIZA was programmed as a psychotherapist. But a psychotherapist, they are trained not to give you answers. They are trained to ask you questions, right? So that through the asking of questions, it can trigger some reflection. And the idea is that you're able then to find the answer within yourself. That's the work of a psychotherapist, right? And similarly, ELIZA don't have the answers. So it pretends to be a psychotherapist, and based on what information you tell the machine, it will ask you back the questions. Like you say, ELIZA, I'm feeling sad. And then ELIZA will say, oh, why? I'm sorry to hear that. Why are you sad? So the machine doesn't have real content to communicate. It essentially uses key phrases and parrots it back to you. All right. So that was the idea of how ELIZA was developed, and that was the foundations for the chatbot. So if you think about interaction with chatbots, you would that we have with Gen AI today, you would see a similar pattern. And of course, I understand that Prof. Liao is the expert in this area, so I'm making a fool of myself here, really. So all right. So that is the idea. So ChatGPT, right? That is the one that there's in the mind of many of us. But when I say ChatGPT, I want you to think more broadly of generative AI. And of course, while the world was very much fascinated by ChatGPT 1.5 years ago, we know that Gemini is catching up. Baidu is also developing currently. And who knows, ChatGPT may go the way of Codec. Have you heard of Codec? Or Netscape Navigator? No, where it becomes no longer that exciting. But what ChatGPT offers really is the state of the art. At the current state, what it can do. So don't be so fixated by the name ChatGPT or Gemini, because another day, tomorrow, Facebook may develop Meta, or another chatbot that is able to do equally powerful things. But think about the state of the art that we have. It led to panic in the segment. Now we have a version 4.0. 3.5 was a series of generative pre-trained transformer. It was not new. They have been developing it over the years and they have been releasing it. But ChatGPT was released openly to the public and that made it accessible. And therefore, there was a lot of interest generated. Right? So I talk about some of this. So what is the difference between regular AI and generative AI? Well, according to what I have read, right? Regular AI uses supervised machine learning. So humans train the machine to label correctly patterns in source binary data. Or they can use unsupervised machine learning. So NPL, for instance, when natural language processing to NLP, natural language processing, where the machine asks humans to label statistical regularities or irregularities in source data, and then there's a certain set of response. So for instance, you think about curation AI. So if you watch Netflix, you will recommend similar shows that you think you like. If you buy something online, it will recommend similar products that you think you like. So that is AI in action. And we have been using it for the longest of time. So no big deal, right? Generative AI is the part that is interesting, right? That is the one that got everybody excited and panicky. It requires training with massive data set processed through a multitude of parameters. But not only are the results it generates unpredictable, they are always uniquely reconstituted digital artifacts, text, image, videos, in that regard. So in a sense, they are seen as creation AI. So they create new artifacts and new text drawing on various other sources that they have in the database. So what's the big deal? Let's look at this. This is from OpenAI. I think this is already familiar to many of you, so I'll go through it fairly quickly. One of the things to note, of course, is the current state of the art is where they highlight some of the limitations, right? So, for instance, one classic limitation is the fact that it may write possibly sounding but incorrect or nonsensical answers. It can hallucinate because it was programmed to be nice, uncritically affirmative. You scold it, it will be nice to you. If you're rude to it, it will still be nice to you. If you force it to give you an answer, it will try its best to give you any answer it can, right? So it will just always be nice to you. That is how it is programmed, right? So if you really force it, if you say that, is there an expert in marine biology in National Academy of Educational Sciences? You will say that, I don't know, I'm a machine, I'm able to go back to a certain level of sources back in maybe 2018. I'm unable to give you the answer. But if you ask again, no, tell me, who is the person that is an expert in marine biology in NAEL? It will say, this Dr. Chun, that graduated from Ohio University, that is currently the vice president at NAER. There's no such person. So when you force it a little bit more, you will hallucinate responses, right? So that is the issue. ChatGPT or OpenAI is very sensitive to tweaks. So the prompts, I think Dr. Kim talked about the importance of prompt engineering. There are two layers really. That algorithm behind that's invisible to us. That is the OpenAI people. The source model, the large language models, the sources, again, invisible to you. So this, you can't control. That's where the developers will control the sources and the algorithm. So if you tweak it, you change the temperature, for instance, in ChatGPT 4, it will give different sets of responses. But it gives you also an illusion of control through the prompts that you make, right? So based on the prompts, it can give you different responses depending on how detailed the prompts you have. So two layers of control. And of course, there are many other limitations that have been highlighted even in OpenAI's website as a way to communicate the weaknesses of generative AI. But I want to encourage you not to focus on these limitations. Know these limitations, but don't think that AI or Gen AI is rubbish because of these limitations. Because there are limitations today, they may not be limitations tomorrow, or the next month, or next year. It's getting better all the time, even as we speak. Thanks also to you, because when you use it, you're training it to get better as well. So that's how it works. Yes. So recognize the limitations, but know that the limitations are for now, and things may change. I work with Professor Bill Cope and Marie Calantis, and they're doing very exciting work in the area of developing their own large language models to provide feedback on students' assignments as well as their thesis at a graduate level. So really very exciting. But what they have done is also to offer a very sensible assessment of the value of Gen AI for learning. So of course, they please make no mistake. I mean, they are for the use of Gen AI. They have been developing their own language model, but they are also aware and realistic about some of this danger in the use. So what are these dangers at this point in time? Sourcing. The machine buries its sources. Gemini is addressing that, and Gemini actually allows the students, allows you to query the sources and provide the sources actually. Now, Gemini, is Google's baby, and Google has a large database. Google Scholar is is part of the database as well. So software is a black box. So even though it gives you the sources in Gemini, for instance, you still don't have a sense of the algorithm because it's too technical. You don't know how is it programmed. Maybe certain racist biases are within it. Certain values are being encoded within the algorithm. You do not know. The large language models, the data it draws from, again, is a black box to you. Facts. The machine have no notion of empirical truth. Artificial intelligence, I think you should focus more on the artificial part rather than intelligence, because it's really not intelligent. It doesn't have a sense of truth, right? It harvests all these facts, right? They found in their sources. They're unable to verify it. They're unable to critically assess it, but they will reproduce it for you. The human will have to interpret and evaluate these facts, but the machine will just draw from all these sources and then represent it to you. So they are unable to make any meaningful assessment. Theory, the machine have no conception of a theoretical frame or disciplinary practice. As humans, there are certain ways of thinking that guides our assessment and evaluation, our disciplinary frame, right? The way we see the world, the theories that we hold by. But the machine have no notions of this, right? Some have used the term stochastic parrots to describe Gen AI, right? What they have done is to regurgitate from a mismatch of texture sources. Ethics. Well, you say, but Gen AI is so nice. I scold it doesn't scold me back. It's programmed that way. If the machine is socially well-mannered, it's not because the sources are necessarily that. It's just programmed algorithmically. I don't know whether you have heard of Hey, another chatbot that was developed a few years ago. They didn't program it so well, and people started interacting with it and using bad words, racist phrases as they interacted with Tay. And within one afternoon, Tay turned into a racist bigot, right? And sexist bigot. It was terrible. So I guess the OpenAI engineers, they learn from their experience and they program it to be uncritically affirmative, right? So that it doesn't run into the trouble where it becomes offensive without even knowing, right? So the moral frames of human imposed filters, the values are not visible to us, right? We imagine that we are able to have control over it, and we do to some extent through the prompts that we engineer. But in reality, the algorithm, the sources are invisible to us. And of course, critical dialogue. To be a good interlocutor, a good conversationalist, the machine is skewed towards being uncritically affirmative. So there's this spin anthropomorphism, right? It pretends to be a human. It pretends to be intelligent. So these are some of the issues, I think fundamental issues related to OpenAI and OpenAI, generative AI, and something that we should be aware of as we use Gen AI, as we incorporate that into our curriculum, our pedagogy, and our assessment. But then what do we do? Do we then say, nah, that's terrible. Let's protest. No Gen AI in our classroom. Nah, bad idea. We shouldn't have Gen AI because, it buries its sources. It has no notions of ethics. Yes, it appears uncritical. It is so terrible. Well, this is what happens, right? This is in 1960s, I think. Yeah, where math teachers protest against calculator use. Any of you protested against that? Do you use calculator? So I think do you use calculators? Great. Yeah. So it's challenging, in fact, almost impossible to say, nah, no Gen AI in the classroom. Although you will know that there are some countries, there are some states in America, they have banned ChatGPT, they have banned OpenAI. So there are seriously some educators and policymakers that have saying no AI in our school, right? So that has been a position. What other response can we give? Perhaps we can do this. 做骆驼就好了啦，算了。Right. 这个不是骆驼，这个是 ostrich. 鸵鸟 sorry. You see, I'm so sorry. Sorry, yeah. 这个鸵鸟就是不管了，就是 ignore, right? 就是不要管那些事情，就 just carry on as life as usual. Curriculum 就照样 develop 吧，这么麻烦，还要请专家来，就算了吧，太麻烦了。But is that the way to go? But more importantly, what about the responsibility that you have as educators, as policymakers, as curriculum developers? And I don't think can be a tenable response because even if you are not using Gen AI, 你们有用吗 Gen AI? Even if you are not, 即使你们没有，我可以保证你们的孩子们都有，你们的学生都有。So you can pretend, but it is going to be part of their life anyway. It will also be part of your life, right? I mean, you say, I don't want to start an OpenAI account. I don't want to use ChatGPT. I don't want to use Gemini. But well, if you use Google, if you use Microsoft, if you use some of these mobile devices, you will inevitably be using Gen AI because it's going to be integrated into these systems. So you can run, but you cannot hide. 逃不了, right? And there are some organizations that have been very quick in terms of adopting the use of Gen AI. So some of you may know of the Khan Academy in the US. So this is early days. I think a few months after Gen AI is being released, and even as schools around the country are banning AI tools, Khan Academy has decided to incorporate that as part of their teaching and learning. And they found that, well, students are more engaged. They're asking more questions to the AI, so using the chatbot technology. IB, 你们这里有 IB 吗？ International Baccalaureate. 他们决定 okay, ChatGPT can be used in the essays. Yeah, 不是假的，是真的 right? And this was very early on, February 2023, right? So ChatGPT allowed in IB essays. You just have to treat it ethically. Singapore, all right? 到新加坡. Chan Chun-seng is our education minister, and he made an announcement again very early on in February 2023, 去年2月. 记得吗 ChatGPT 是大概11月尾12月被 released. So there was a parliament question, and the Ministry of Education very quickly came up and take a strong position saying that we will guide teachers in schools and Institute of Higher Education on how to use artificial intelligence tools such as ChatGPT to enhance learning because these tools are going to be pervasive over time. So even as schools and education system are banning the use of AI, we have taken a very decisive stance to say, let's teach our teachers and students to use it well. But the question is how, right? 讲是容易啦，做得比较辛苦，对吗？所以 later I'll share with you the master plan on how, okay? They also recognize that, AI tool like ChatGPT can be useful in the classroom, but when students have mastered the basics, 它是用那个 calculator 的理念 the use of calculator. So 小学基本的arithmetic mathematics 就会用 calculator， 而且是不可以用，因为你必须学习这样add, divide, subtract, and all that, right? But at a higher level, at the secondary school level, you can then think about the use of Gen AI. And so that brings us to a very important question then. But what are some of the curriculum content that are considered basic? What are some of the knowledge and skills that are considered foundational that maybe Gen AI tools shouldn't be used? Because you want, even though they are low-level thinking, you want the students to be able to master them, 这个基础的概念和思想. And then maybe at a higher level, ChatGPT can come in to be used to enhance the learning. So these are questions that educators have been thinking about. Even at the university, I look after the Masters of Arts Applied Linguistics program, and we are thinking about the kind of learning in the different courses. What are some foundational learning that they need to demonstrate competencies without the use of Gen AI? And what are some aspects where Gen AI can even be encouraged to be used? So this is another news article where our ministry is planning to deploy more AI in schools. We launched an adaptive learning system for mathematics. Later on, I'm going to share with you an example of that. And of course, I'm going to share with you the EdTech Master Plan 2030 that was announced. So it's a technology master plan, and it is, as I shared with some of the colleagues earlier on, in Singapore, we are organized in a metric system. We have the verticals, which are the subjects. So each subject is responsible for their own curriculum and syllabus, from design to development to delivery, the implementation and evaluation of it. But we also have the horizontals. So some of the key master plans that cuts across all the different verticals, the different subjects. So the EdTech Master Plan is one of these horizontal that cut across the different subject silos. So this is what we have, artificial intelligence in education and the EdTech Master Plan. But before I go into the plan a little bit more, maybe I'll share with you the context, because as I started off by saying, there is no one correct or one best plan, because our contexts are very different. Right? Singapore is not Korea. Singapore is not Taiwan. And in order for us to appreciate the plans, we have to be also aware of the context that we are in. Now, many of you think about Singapore like that. Is that? Have you watched the movie Crazy Rich Asians? Terrible, I think. We are not crazy, and certainly not many of us are rich, especially in academia. But we are certainly Asians, okay? So we are Asians. That's the only part that they got it correct. So not so much like that. This is one view, but more like that, actually. Yeah, this is more realistic. 80% of our population stays in public housing, right? These are the public housing flats that we all stay in. So that is the context that you should have, not the skyscrapers and all that, okay? Unless you're a tourist. Tourist is different. But policymakers, you've got to look at this. So small country, very, very small, right? So small, it's like a little dot, right? Population only 5.9 million. Small, very centralized. Majority Chinese. We are unique in the sense that in Asia, we are one of the few, in fact, next to maybe Taiwan, Hong Kong, of course, China, we are one of the few Chinese majority country, right? We have a strong GDP though, right? This is the key education statistics. 你们看了这也可能会笑，是吗？因为这么小又这么少， 算了，我回家去吧。Okay, so this is the number of schools, and unfortunately, we are also facing the same problems that many developed countries are facing, which is 人口老化, right? Aging society, falling birth rate. So this is the number of schools we have in 2022, but over time, it's going to likely to decrease as well. But the government has always focused on education, 非常看重教育. So in the past, our budget, the largest was defense, because Singapore is small and vulnerable. So defense and then education. But in the last 10 years, because of the aging society, now education is third. Can you guess which is number 2? 比较多年长的人士就 healthcare become number 2. Education is still one of the highest. Okay? Are you okay? Are you able to understand me? Yes? Okay. Right. So maybe I'll share with you also how the education system has evolved over the years. Okay? To give you a sense of what we have done. 1965 was our independence. 1959 we were in a sense part of the Federation of of Malaysia. That was the phase in which we were starting out as a young nation. It was a period of developing the society. We were, in a sense, a third world nation, and the focus of education then was very much survival-driven. Right? We need to, if you read some of the memoirs of our early leaders, like Lee Kuan Yew, they weren't very confident that Singapore was able to survive. It was not like, sure, we will make it. It's a 未知数, So there was a sense of anxiety, but also a collective sense of 使命感 vision, trying to make Singapore work. So the education was survival-driven. And then in the late 1970s, that is where we need to try to transform into a knowledge-based economy, right? And during then, the education system we had was efficiency-driven, right? We started a streaming of students, 因材教育, right? We started a lot of focus on helping students to master the basics of communication and literacy so that they can become knowledge workers for the economy. And then we moved into the knowledge-based economy in the late 1990s. And the focus then was ability-based and aspiration-driven. The idea was that there's more than just one way of success, one model of success. There are different forms of excellence and success in society. Different students have different strengths, and they are encouraged to explore different ability. So there was also a greater valuing of subjects like the arts, because in the past it was really engineering. And then over time, there's a recognition that there was a celebration of diversity. And since 2012 onwards, in the last 15 years or so, there was a great focus on productivity and innovation. And we have also moved towards student-centric and values-driven education. So a lot more reflection on the fact that education is not just about helping students to have knowledge, but also developing their character, the sense of self, the sense of identity. And with this, we also started not just the academic curriculum, we also started the student development curriculum. So some of the 素养 that you talk about, the 21st century competencies, are given a fair bit of focus. So what about the ICT in Education Master Plan? Our ICT Education Master Plans was built over the years as well. We started our first master plan in 1997. Now, 1997, I was not teaching yet. I started my teaching career in MP2, 2003. I was a teacher before I went to Ministry of Education and then did my research. But 1997, that was when the civil service was still using paper and not email. And when you ask them to use a mouse, they will take the mouse and put it on the computer, right? The teachers. The idea was setting up the basic infrastructure and to digitalize the processes in the ministry as well as in teaching and learning. So laying the foundation to use ICT, very basic, introducing the use of computers in the classroom. And instead of using document file, use email. How many of you use document files before? No? 你们有用过文件夹吗？不是用 email？ 你们蛮年轻的哦。Okay, so that was the time. Okay, 要用文件夹的嘛，要签名，是不是？现在全部都是 email 的。So that was the foundation in 1997. And then we have MP2. So during then, the focus in 2003 was to build on the basic infrastructure that was developed to focus on teaching and learning. And during then, the focus was how can technology be used to engage students' learning, right? To engage students so that they are able to enjoy the learning processes, but also achieve some basic ICT infrastructure, a basic ICT level of use, so they know how to use technology. And then what will be more closely associated with my own experience will be MP3. I joined HQ in 2011 towards the mid of MP3. And MP3, the Master Plan 3, was where we started to think about the use of technology beyond engagement, beyond helping them to learn the subject better, but also how technology can enable better learning in terms of developing self-directed learners and collaborative learners. So some of the 素养 in terms of self-directed learning and collaborative learning came into being in MP3. So that was the focus. And we also had the Future Schools, which was a showcase school of how technology can really transform teaching and learning in schools. And MP4, that happened after that in 2015 to 19, was when we began to focus on student-centric and values education. So thinking about the importance of cyber wellness, digital learning, responsible use of technology, and how it can develop some of the 21st century competencies like critical thinking, collaboration, communication, global awareness, and some of these other digital literacies aspects. Then what happened after 2019? Well, it was an idea at the bottom in 2019 that I think we have done quite well. So no need master plan anymore. I think no need a master plan, no need this horizontal because every subject have already integrated technology very well. I think there's nothing else we need to do. So, okay, so gong already, EdTech division, well done, good job, right? So let's just have a regular EdTech plan that we refresh on a rolling basis. So we had a 3 years EdTech plan, and that was just to support the different subjects. 所以不再高调了. So the idea was just to develop a very agile and responsive school structure to help MOE respond to the various changes. And then what happened? COVID happened. And Gen AI happened. And then our leadership, our senior leadership, our political leaders say, I think we cannot just have an EdTech plan. I think we need to have a high order plan to show the importance of EdTech and to show how we are able to respond to the changes and challenges brought about by the use of technologies and AI. So last year, so this is fresh off the stove, right? I mean, last year in August, we announced the EdTech Master Plan 2030. So 又在高调了, right? In terms of focusing on the development of students' digital literacy and technological skills, learning new technologies like AI to better customize learning. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, okay, based on publicly available information. So I'm not telling you state secrets, okay? These are things that we share with the world, okay, on the EdTech Master Plan. So what is this? It builds on the previous plans because 不是一朝一夕的事嘛, so we have to lay on the foundations that have been developed over the master plans and then focuses on the opportunities and challenges of post-COVID. And the vision really is to have technology transformed learning, prepare students for a technology transformed world. The world that you have grown up is different from the world that your students are growing up today. Think about the toys you play with. 你是玩什么玩具的？可能是木的玩具啊、石头啊这类的东西。现在你的孩子是玩什么玩具？ Minecraft, virtual world, VR, AR. I think the world has changed. So these are the 4 outcome goals that we have for the different stakeholders, students, to be digitally empowered, future-ready learners and innovators, because we want to focus on innovation. Teachers, very important. So 不能只关注学生，因为 you need to focus on the teachers as well. Technologically adept, collaborative, and the idea of learning designers. So no longer just authority on the stage, no longer just guide by the sides, but they are designers of learning experiences with the different tools and resources that they have. Schools, and yesterday we have seen the importance of the school culture to be intelligent, responsive, digitally equipped learning environment. So the infrastructure makes a difference. Can you imagine if you have all the devices and the excellent digital resources, but the student just can't log in because the Wi-Fi is too poor, right? Or if the teachers don't dare to experiment and innovate, because when technology works, it works silently, right? But when technology fails, it fails spectacularly, right? Everybody can see that it doesn't work. All your students will be watching that it doesn't work. So what happens? You need to have school leaders that are very supportive, tolerant, and encouraging of innovations in our class system, network, edtech ecosystem. And this is something that I talked about yesterday, the idea of a digital ecosystem that's very important. And then we unpack the outcome goals, right? So what does it mean? Digitally empowered. You need to unpack it, right? Self-directed in setting goals, collaborative and connected in using digital tools. Digitally literate learners apply digital literacy and tech skills to distill and discern through the effective use of technology. Exercise self-awareness to use technology in safe and discerning manner, right? A lot of scams nowadays. Empathetic technological adept innovators who use human-centered methodology to discover needs and develop solutions to real-world thinking, real-world problems. So I think Prof. Leo talked about design thinking, and that is a huge part of the plan that we have. And of course, leverage a range of digital tools to create solutions. So we unpack the outcome goals. Teachers, we also unpack it in a systematic way. Collaborative contributors. So there's a culture of teamwork and sharing we have seen in the school yesterday. They share resources, they share experiences, they share best practices. Our teachers need to be pedagogically proficient, so having a repertoire of pedagogies, not just teaching all ways in the same way, right? But they have a range of pedagogical practices. Data literate, because later on I will share with you our student learning space. There's a lot of big data, a lot of visualization and analytics. So our teachers need to be, data literate. They need to know how to make sense of this data. Otherwise it's wasted, right? You have all this data, but they cannot interpret. Harness learning data to better understand students' needs and provide more targeted guidance. So what this means is a lot of professional learning need to be in place to support teachers to build up this area of competency. They should be learners and innovators to continue to deepen their digital literacy and technological skills, because you know that tech improves so quickly. There are always new things that is coming out. And of course, regularly experiment with technology themselves to make teaching more efficient and effective. We did a study at NIE to find out why some teachers are more open to the use of generative AI for English language teaching, and why some teachers are less enthusiastic, not so open. Do you know what was the main reason? Why were some teachers more open to the use of Gen AI? Or why are some teachers less open? You know what's the reason? Their own use. Whether they have used it themselves before. So if they have used it themselves, then they are more open. Then when they have not used it themselves, they are very skeptical and very resistant. You remember also some mama? Are you? Yeah? So I know, you must be thinking, so simple, why do you need research? Of course I know. But, This is some of the things. Yeah. I love it when people laugh. I know that's where I know you're responding to me, okay? Because it's quite heavy, right? I mean, okay, so schools, functional learning spaces, digitally connected learning spaces. So network connectivity, many times we take it for granted, but it's important because we want to support anytime, any place, anywhere learning. Use a communication technology to overcome limitations of physical space to connect with the rest of the world, right? Internationally. System, thinking about private-public partnership. I know Korea does this very well. Partnership with industry. I think we need to learn a little bit more about this aspect in the Singapore context. And I'm sure in Taiwan as well, there's a good partnership with industries and different stakeholders. International tech network. So coming here to share, I think is a part of that connection. And as a community of educators, we try to find a way forward together. And the importance of parents, because what we like to think of our kids as students, actually they are children and they spend a lot of time at home. So parents need to have the buy-in. So these are the outcome goals that we have, right? So what I have shared with you are the outcome goals, and we have unpacked them so that they are not just words, but there are certain ideas that you can pin down and assess if you need to. Then let's talk about implementation focus. So what do we focus on? Well, the focus is on how we can support the EdTech plan's vision and provide direction for MOE. So what does this mean? There are 5 strategic thrusts. First, greater customization of students' learning. So greater personalization of student learning experience. So that's a key strategy. Second, strengthen development of students' digital literacy and tech skills. Third, empower students' 21st century competencies, the 素养 that we talk about. Fourth, strengthen school and department culture of collaboration and EdTech practices. And 5, strengthen teachers' EdTech practices. And like what we do in Singapore, we unpack everyone. So number 1, there's a lot, right? I know. Are you okay? I'll go through fairly quickly here. You can read it for yourself. So customization of student learning. How do we then bring about a greater customization? Well, 你们在台湾有那个英才网，对吧？ In Singapore, we have the Singapore Student Learning Space, SLS. 一样的模式，一样的概念。So we have SLS, and we have built-in AI features such as adaptive learning system. I will show you later on. We also have a greater variety of learning resources in SLS so that there's finer customization and students can learn based on their ability and interest. And then, of course, there's a fair bit of digital tools in the SLS as well, the student learning space. And one of it is the learning feedback assistant. I'm going to share with you later. Are you guys okay? So this is the SLS, the student learning space. This is how it looks like. And so what is so I'm going to focus on one aspect, which is the AI in SLS. This is the AI features that we have, and let's look at maybe the adaptive learning system. So it is a new system that is just recently put in. It's currently available for primary 5 and 6 mathematics, foundation mathematics. And of course, over time, we will add in more topics. So, can I trouble my colleague to play for us? There's a video that we can play, the first link, with the sound. Yeah, actually, the sound is just music. You'll find that there's a fair bit of thinking that has gone into it, but I would say that this is not so unique because we see that in many other countries as well. I'm sure that other platforms have. But what we wanted to maybe what I want to highlight is how this particular platform and new feature is positioned very neatly into the master plan that we have to show how it contributes specifically to the particular aspect. So how does the adaptive learning system enhance learning and teaching? So the idea of differentiation that we've talked about, self-directed learning, and of course the monitoring of progress. So how can AI be used in mathematics education? This is one example, right? So there's that, you have seen it. And then we have language feedback assistant as well. So I will share with you a little bit more about in the English language context. So here we have short answers feedback assistant. So you will be able to then automatically assess the students' responses. So let's look at that. Can I play the second video? Thank you. 第二个。The teacher can edit the feedback as well. So it helps. So this is the teacher typing in addition to what the AI has produced automatically. Then you may ask, why must the teacher edit the feedback? Why don't you just give it to the AI? Let the AI feedback be given to the students immediately. Why? Because in Singapore, 我们很怕输. We are very careful. So what there's a technology that can do it, but we don't quite trust the technology. The teacher says, no, I think I better look through. Yeah, the technology can do it. In fact, you can just allow it to bypass the teacher. But the teacher at this stage, I think we are also building a cultural change. So we say, let me look at it first. It saves my time, okay? And then after we go back to the student. But the tech can be done. All right, so you get a sense. Great, so provide content-based feedback, not just for language, but content-based, and it can be applied across levels and subjects. So that is the strategic trust that we have. I will highlight some others fairly quickly in the interest of time. So digital literacy and technological skills. So we have a framework to help develop students' digital literacies, the find, think, apply, create. And then we have identified 9 digital competencies as well. So in a sense, digital literacies was launched in March 2020 as part of the ACTAC Master Plan now. It focuses on 4 set of competencies: to find, to think, to apply, and to create. These are some of the ways we have unpacked it. I will not belabor the point. If you're interested, we can talk more about it later on. But digital competencies remains very important and fundamental, really. And then we also have technological skills. So we have the literacies, but we see AI literacy really as tech skills, right? So understanding the benefits, limitations, and risks. So what does this mean? Well, this is one of the tech skills. So what we do is, of course, then to provide resources for students. So some students who wish to learn more about it, they can take the lessons on the SLS. So these are some examples of the lessons available for the students. And these are self-paced modules, so they can take it on their own, right? So learning about AI basics, AI ethics, and at the primary level, AI for kids. What are some of these learning outcomes that we can have for them? So this gives you a sense, right? And then we talk about the third, trust, empower development of students' 21st century competencies. This is where we think about how we can scale up some of the school programs and enable greater intentionality of 21st century competencies in the curriculum. Fourth, culture and practice of sharing. So I was encouraging our colleagues at Chongling yesterday that well, this is a great school with great practices, but share. And they are sharing. And today they tell me that they are hosting teachers and schools from other from the same area, and they're sharing their practices. And I think that's very important because you are never alone in this. I know the challenge is very daunting because technological changes and all these very technical things around us. But and as educators, I say that we are responsible. We need to respond. But the good thing is that you are not alone. You're not alone in your own school. You're not alone across schools. You're not alone in Taiwan because you have colleagues in Korea and Singapore. We are all doing this together. And I think that's important to help our teachers understand. Finally, of course, the support of teachers, which is very important because the teachers are at the front line of teaching and learning. I repeat what I said earlier on. Your curriculum is only as good as the delivery. You can have a document that looks wonderful, but if the teachers are unable to deliver it, it's meaningless, right? So you need to support the teachers in terms of what I do at NIE, the National Institute of Education. We used to joke that we are the best National Institute of Education in Singapore. Do you know why? Because we're the only one. Not funny. Okay, never mind. Okay. All right. So we do pre-service and in-service training, provide resources for sharing, and then we have a various center of excellence. And I think Chongling will be one example of a center of excellence. So that, in a nutshell, will be the strategic trust. And then we also have enablers. It's not important. Well, it's not sufficient just to have the strategies without the enablers. So what are these enablers? Right? Learning analytics and data, school infrastructure, and EdTech ecosystem. Now, I'll go through this fairly quickly. The first is learning analytics and data. So how do we then enhance the school ability to use data for decision making? It's great that you have in Taiwan and you have all the data collected. Now, the next thing is to help your teachers and your school leaders to make sense of them. Very rich data, right? It has to be used. And you need to train the teachers and the school leaders on how to make sense of this data for decision making. School learning spaces gradually needs to be transformed, the classroom that you have. EdTech ecosystem that I mentioned about the sharing of resources. So this is it, the key enablers. And in a sense, specific to Gen AI, there are a few things that we have communicated with the teachers in a very teacher-friendly way. Encouraging them to be open to use Gen AI. So there's a stance. Reminding them not to outsource your professional work because you are still, Gen AI is not getting paid. I know you may be paying, maybe you'll be paying $20 subscription, but the salary is still yours, right? So you have to be responsible for your professional work, right? So apply your expertise and judgment to all your core duties and be especially careful, right? To ensure that the use of Gen AI does not undermine the development of foundational skills. So this is a note to the teacher. And we have given some examples to teachers on how they can use Gen AI to help them prepare lessons, to help them assist in assessment for learning as well. For students, we have also given them some notes on what they can do with using Gen AI, right? So what are some of the ideas using being digital knowledgeable others, providing scaffolds, and some example of prompts that they can use as well. So we are providing resources to get them started. And of course, we have other agencies in Singapore that we work with very closely. For instance, AI in Education Singapore, Singapore, where AI Singapore focuses on AI, and they also create programs for teachers like teacher work attachment. They can go to this center, they can learn courses, and build up their professional capabilities. This is an example of another center that we have, the AI Center for Educational Technology. So my colleague, Professor Ben Leong, is director of it, and he shared some projects that the AI Center for Educational Technology is advancing. So adaptive learning, exam grading, automated feedback system. So we partner with researchers that's leading innovative work to push the frontiers and eventually integrate them into the SLS. we were just talking about how we ourselves as civil servants may be using Gen AI as well. Now, in Singapore, we are concerned about confidential documents being put online, some of the personal information being put online to Gen AI, to OpenAI or to Google. So what they have done is to develop our own AI, right? Our own Gen AI called Launchpad. So that is just within the Singapore civil service, right? So you can use Gen AI, but don't put everything up to Google or OpenAI, right? So they started this where official open or official closed documents can be used within our own LLM. So overall, the civil service in Singapore, we are encouraging the use of large language models as a writing assistant and to provide a sparring partner for ideas. So this is not just the Ministry of Education, but civil service-wide. And the chatbot pair is again developed just like Launchpad in-house. All right. Now, very quickly, I'll just give you some examples of how teachers in Singapore have been very creative in using Gen AI in their own lessons design. So a community of practice is very important because that's where teachers can come together to share their experience and resources. Now, in Singapore, we have this Facebook group. I know you say only old people use Facebook, but the teachers are older. So they're on Facebook. And this is a learning designer community that is initiated by the Education Ministry, the EdTech division. And then we also guide the development of it. But really, over time, a lot of the teachers are the ones that are populating it with resources and ideas. So when Gen AI first came out, we have teachers that were sharing about how they used ChatGPT to design science lessons, right? So using ChatGPT to design the lessons in SLS. And this is what is done by teachers themselves, and they're very proud of it, so they share it, right, with the other teachers. This is another teacher that shared how she used, she designed ChatGPT for a primary 1 lesson in mathematics, right? So, some examples of that. This is a teacher that shared English lesson? Yeah, so using ChatGPT to design an English language lesson. And it's really encouraging because this is where you are able to see the teachers themselves coming out with these resources and ideas. Okay, so this is another example of a Chinese language lesson, 国语。的老师也是用 ChatGPT 在小学 think about how Midjourney 和 ChatGPT can be used to design. And then, of course, they share these lessons with one another in the community and on SLS as well. So this is wonderful. And this is a study I talk about where we engaged with some pre-service teachers, and we found that the key factor on their perception on whether they are open to the use of Gen AI in their classroom is whether they themselves have had first-hand experience with Gen AI. I will conclude by very quickly just discussing some key issues in terms of the ethical use of AI. I think it's important. AI can become stronger and better, but I think the ethical issues remain key. So some scholars have described us as all cyborgs. Why? 如果你今天出门的话没有带手提电的话，你会觉得有点怪。How? It has become a part of you. So you are like a cyborg, part human, but part robot, right? So, and these tools are our cognitive prosthetics. It helps us to think. 你们还能记得电话号码吗？ We lost the ability to remember even, like my wife I still remember, my kids I can't remember their 电话号码。如果老婆忘记就 alright. So, but we have lost our ability to remember some things, right? So there are cognitive prosthetics. And the digital tools we have available to us have become so exceedingly powerful and ever more every day. But still we're trying to figure out how to make sense of them, right? The term artificial intelligence, if you trace back to history, was coined by John McCarthy during a small workshop in the US, right? He defined artificial intelligence as making a machine behave in ways that would be called intelligence if a human was so behaving. So Turing said that computers may be able to achieve something like this, but only as a trick, right? So it is never really intelligent. It's just tricking you to think that it's intelligent. have we been tricked to think that machines are intelligent because it's so good at calculation? Maybe we give it more credit than it needs to by calling it intelligence, right? We need to unpack what thinking and intelligence is today. So what is the danger? What are the dangers of treating machines as intelligent? Epistemological, they have no theory of knowledge. Emotional, they have no theory of mind, it's machine. Ethical, they have no value, so to speak, beyond what the programmers have programmed. And existential, they have no purpose beyond what we can use it for. So a person who is intelligent will have a theory of mind, will have a theory of knowledge, will have values and purpose. So can we really say that the machine is intelligent? So this was the IB that I talked about. I know some of you were surprised. IB is allowing the use of ChatGPT. But in the same statement, you also say that it will not ban the use of AI because it's ineffective. However, the use of AI should be in line with the IB academic integrity policy. And so different schools, different universities have come out with different policies, including mine. This is from IOE in UCL, and I believe many universities in Taiwan likewise have been responding to this with clear policies on what you can and what you cannot use AI for. It's MOE, we have AI in Education Ethics Framework as well. If you're interested, we can talk more about that, but the ideas of agency, inclusivity, fairness, and safety are key components of it, right? So we will unpack that as well. And we also engage with parents, which is very important to think about what AI or Gen AI is, because parents are our key stakeholders. So this is for parents, actually. Okay, for parents. Finally, rethinking assessment. The point really is that ChatGPT is allowed in IB. But in the same news article, the director says, essay writing is, however, being profoundly challenged by the rise of new technology, and there's no doubt that it will have much less prominence in the future. Wow, think about it. Essay has been the main way in which we assess student science of learning, right? Science essays, history essays, English essays. And now the director of IB is saying that it will have less prominence. So what does this mean for us? We need to rethink digital literacies. I don't have time to talk about it, but think about that. And there's a research project that I'm initiating on understanding how young people are using generative AI for learning and play in their own context. But I just want to conclude with this, and that is the point of some reflections from the whole development in the last 2 years. The first is that ChatGPT is really just a snapshot of what AI in education can offer. So we don't have to be fixated about ChatGPT, because there may be a more powerful AI in education coming up. Second is, how can education system engage with Gen AI? I think the seminar that's organized today is a start for the conversation. Third, to understand how young people themselves are using Gen AI. And of course, thinking about the ethical considerations in the use of AI for education. And finally, this is a philosophical question that I think we can use to begin our conversation. What does it mean to be literate today? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we will move on to our 10 minutes Q&A session.
我们很感谢林飞博士在从刚刚提到新加坡的一些经验来看的话，包含说从教师作为学习设计者跟如何负责任使用 AI 来看，那么对于整个GPT 的问世，包括人工智慧还有生成 AI 的一个使用，带来非常大的启示哦。那我首先用中文问一个问题也请大家来思考一件事情是，我们知道大型语言模型的一个 LLM， 它其实最重要的是在参数跟 dataset 的一个多寡哦。对于教育的所谓的 multi-model 的一个 education 来讲的话，多模态的教育是重视在听说读写的整个素养上面。但其实现在最新的研究显示说scaling law 所谓的尺度法则就提到说，大型语言模型越大，对于整个生成式 AI 的使用预测是非常重要的一个概念。但我不认为这样的状况是因为在大型语言模型的所谓多模态的尺度来看的话，我们可以知道说，一旦我们这样的大型我们所谓的多模态的使用的语法 然后不断的去训练这样的资料，对我们教育的情境来讲，是真的是有优势的吗？换句话说，刚刚提到幻觉的问题 ，evolution 的幻觉的问题，它其实对于 AI 的现况来讲是无法避免的。但如果这样看起来的话，我们知道大学模型的使用实际上是最有状况的。我不晓得林飞博士对我刚刚提到的问题有什么看法？也请各位在场的嘉宾可以思考一下。
Thanks very much. I think that's a very important question, really. And I would say that not just for multimodal research, but for a lot of the other research that many of you have expertise in, I think we need to use the lens of our expertise to think about the developments in AI. And I think it's a responsibility for us to do so. Now, I'm obviously very biased towards multimodal research because that's my area of expertise, multimodality and multiliteracies. And certainly there are a few key implications that colleagues in my community have been exploring. The first is, of course, the issue, the possibilities of generative AI using large language models to develop very timely and quality feedback for the students' learning. But the challenge, as I mentioned, is that we don't know where these sources are, where these large language models are from, So that's why there's a potential for hallucination. So Professor Bill Cobb and Mary Galantis from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign have decided to build their own large language model, right? So drawing on their own publications, scholarly publications, drawing on their students' academic work, they then use that as the database and then develop the AI modeling to be able then to provide meaningful feedback that's aligned to for them, they have a learning by design framework to be able to do that. So I think there's one potential. It has a certain technical power, but we need to then in a sense curate the sources so that we can be assured of the output that it generates. Another very exciting area is my colleague in Italy, Professor Maria Grazia Sindoni. She's working together with computer scientists to develop automated detection of hateful speech, but also hateful memes. Memes 就是一些 circulated 的那些images that can be 通常都是非常好笑的那些 images 有一些字 but it can be hateful and racist. So what they are trying to do is to use the Gen AI technology to develop ways to detect this hateful speech and hateful memes automatically, so that then it can provide a safer space and a better internet for everybody. So these are two examples of applications, but there are a lot more. And I wanted to say that actually the expertise that you have developed over the years, if you bring them to look at the developments of AI, I'm sure there's a lot of possibilities and potential.
在场有没有来宾想要问问题 ？OK，
你好，我想指教一下，就是有关这个新加坡的一个这个 AI 跟数位教育的这个规划跟设计哈，那应该有一个很完整的一套，这个不管是平台上面的一个资源资料，供给老师去使用，跟容易去学习跟背后的资源，那学生也是很可以用这个环境里面，透过这个教学环境去学习跟应用。那我想了解一下，他们在使用这个大的一个数位 AI 的一个教育环境里面，他们有没有什么样的一个学习的动机跟动力，可以在这边可以看得到？因为有时候这个设计的内容是刚刚有提到这个太枯燥，或者说不太好使用的时候，可能会造成这个整个学习上面的一个推展难度。那还有一个针对比较身心障碍方面的学生，或是学习落差的学生的话，他们这个区块有没有在你们的这个新加坡的经验有去考虑到这个全面性的这个部分？谢谢。
Yeah, thanks for the very thoughtful question, actually. For every vision, for every master plan, you need to have some delivery platforms. Just like in Taiwan, you have your Yingxue Wang. In Singapore, we have the Singapore Student Learning Space. So that is a platform that we are using as a main way to deliver digital content. The teachers design learning experiences on the particular platform, and digital resources are both created and curated and put on the platform itself. So that is a way in which we want to realize the possibility of being able to learn anytime, anywhere, but also at any pace. At any pace. That means 你可以快或者你可以慢。The holy grail in education is personalized learning, right? That's the challenge. Personalized learning. In Singapore, we have one class of one teacher, 40 students in a primary school, one teacher, 30 students in a secondary school. It's very challenging to be able to, well, in the end, we will teach to the media, right? 不可以太快，不可以太慢，就是中间这样 teach. So also that is the challenge. That's a real challenge of a physical classroom. But online learning allows you the possibility of learning at your own pace based on your own ability. And with the adaptive learning systems, you are able to get automated feedback as well on the learning process. So we are not there yet, but that is a vision, a greater customization of learning, and maybe a greater personalization of learning as well. So that every child's learning progress, every child's learning challenges and strengths are all captured within the data and being able to be pointed to resources, activities that can help to strengthen them. So I mean, if you ask the teachers and students, of course, they say they enjoy it. It was good. So the feedback has been positive, but you have to bear in mind that we did not just start it last year. We had 30 years of ICT and education master plan to build the change in culture, to shape the way of thinking of teachers, to get them to be involved in communities. And so, the AI in education is just, 最近的一块，但是不是 we are not starting from scratch in that regard, And I'm sure in Korea and Taiwan, you are not starting from scratch. You are building on very strong foundations that have been established over the years.
因为国教院有测评中心、测评评量中心我们都知道 AI 对一个伦理的议题事实上是非常重视。任何 AI 对伦理的争议都在于是为什么你可以使用 AI 来评价人类的学习成果，跟人类的评价是不一样的状况。我常戏称说 AI 不是 artificial intelligence， 应该是要 assessment instruction， 所谓的 A 跟 I 的概念。那我想问一个问题是请问如果我们今天试着去评价一个 AI 的方法是在于学习的过程之中的好坏，那我们怎么去看到说比如说举个例子来讲在我们评价 AI 的时候怎么去透过一个比较更公正的法则去评价这个 AI 系统，我们应该不能够舍弃我们一般传统的评量方式才对，然后同时又结合 AI 的方法，也就是说我们不能够单纯靠 AI 来评价学习的方式，也要靠的是传统学习方法去做个评量，这两个怎么去结合这个在新加坡里面目前有没有针对传统评量方式跟 AI 的评量方式做一个很好的结合呢
？This again is a great question, really. I mean, but I wanted to broaden our thinking beyond just 评价是什么 assessment and evaluation, right? So that remains very important. But I would like to broaden our thinking beyond just assessment and evaluation to teaching. Traditionally, in assessment or evaluation, we only focus on the learning product because we can only look at the artifacts that they produce. So 你学了很多东西，最后你给我做一个作品，我就评价这个作品 right? So that is the way you have seen it. But with generative AI, with learning analytics, with big data, you can move your focus beyond the learning product to the learning process. And that is very exciting because you are able to have the science of students learning. You have multiple drafts to have a sense of the struggles, the issues, the learning that students have. And that is very powerful because as a teacher, you are not a tester. Your job is not to test. Your job is to teach. So in order for you to teach, you need to recognize students' signs of learning. How are they learning? How do I know that they are learning? The product has been a traditional way to do that. But now with technology, you can look at the process of learning, collect data, have a sense of how they are struggling. What are some of the conceptual issues that they have or misconceptions that they have. And then you are able then to offer timely remediation. And I think that's very powerful because you go back to the heart of teaching. You're able then to move beyond the product to include the process in the whole teaching and learning experience. And I think that's one of the key value that AI, analytics, big data, and technology can bring for us.
好，那因为时间关系，我们非常开心，而且非常感谢林飞博士带来精彩演讲。我们再次掌声热烈谢谢林飞博士的演讲，谢谢。
Thank you for the inspiring talk. Thank you very much.